The massive Doran warships appeared in Earth's skies without warning one quiet Tuesday morning. People across the globe stopped and stared upward as the enormous vessels blocked out the sun in major cities worldwide. The ships were unlike anything humans had ever built, angular, dark, and covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an inner light. TV broadcasts worldwide were suddenly interrupted by the face of Admiral Tay, a stern-looking alien with pale blue skin and eyes that reminded people of polished obsidian. His message was simple and delivered without emotion. People of Earth, you are now part of the Doran Empire. Your resources belong to us. Your planet belongs to us. You have 24 hours to surrender your governments to our control. Resistance is pointless. The world erupted in panic. Streets filled with terrified civilians. Emergency meetings were called in every capital. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. But in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Kim smiled for the first time in years. "They're right on schedule," she said to the room of military and scientific leaders. "Just as our deep space sensors predicted 3 years ago." The room buzzed with nervous energy as General Kim activated the main display. "Project Porcupine is ready. The question is, are we?" The truth was, Earth had been preparing ever since their long-range sensors detected the Doran fleet approaching our solar system. An unprecedented global alliance had formed in secret, pooling resources and brilliant minds to develop defenses specifically designed to counter alien technology. "The Dorans have conquered 17 other inhabited worlds," said Dr. Song, the lead scientist. He pulled up images of devastated planets. "They follow the same pattern every time. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, then strip the planet of resources and reduce the population to slave labor. But they've never met humans before," General Kim replied, her eyes hard with determination. "And they've certainly never tried to bully a species that had advance warning." While panic reigned on the surface, deep in bunkers across the world, Earth's defenders were calm, focused, and ready to show the Dorans what happens when you pick a fight with humanity. The next morning, as the deadline approached, world leaders made a show of arguing and panicking on public channels, a carefully orchestrated act. Meanwhile, hidden launch facilities powered up around the globe. Admiral Tay watched with satisfaction from his command ship. This conquest was proceeding exactly like all the others. These humans were just like every other species, frightened, disorganized, and ultimately helpless against Doran might. "Sir," reported his second-in-command, "their primitive nuclear weapons are powering down. They appear to be surrendering." Admiral Tay nodded. "As expected. Prepare the landing parties and resource assessment teams. I want this planet's strip mining to begin by local sunset." That's when the first wave of Earth's real response launched. Thousands of small, seemingly primitive missiles rose from hidden locations across the planet. The Doran officers watched with amusement. "They think those can penetrate our shields," Admiral Tay laughed. "Let them waste their primitive weapons." But something strange happened. Instead of exploding against the Doran shields, the missiles passed right through them, as if the powerful energy barriers weren't even there. "Impossible," shouted Admiral Tay as the first explosions rocked his flagship. What the Dorans didn't know was that Earth scientists had spent years studying technology from a crashed Doran scout ship found in Antarctica. They had discovered that the Doran shields operated on a specific frequency that could be bypassed with precisely calibrated phase-shifting technology. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Admiral Tay commanded, but it was too late. The seemingly simple missiles attached to the hulls of the Doran vessels and began drilling through their armor. General Kim watched from the command center as Earth's first counterattack unfolded. "Launch the second wave," she ordered calmly. Next phase of Earth's defense revealed itself as stealth fighters, invisible to Doran sensors, rose from hidden bases. These aircraft carried advanced weapons specifically designed to target the weakest points of Doran ship architecture, knowledge gained from that same crashed scout ship. The Doran fleet, expecting an easy conquest, found themselves in the middle of a coordinated attack, unlike anything they had experienced in centuries of imperial expansion. Their ships, designed for overwhelming force against conventional weapons, had no defense against Earth's specialized technology. Admiral Tay's flagship shuddered as another explosion tore through the lower decks. "This is impossible," he shouted. "They're primitives. How do they know our shield frequencies? How are they targeting our engine cooling systems?" As his bridge officers frantically tried to respond to the unexpected attack, Admiral Tay made a decision that no Doran commander had made in generations. "All ships regroup beyond their moon. We need to reassess and call for reinforcements." As the damaged Doran ships retreated behind Earth's moon, cheers erupted in command centers worldwide. It wasn't victory, not yet, but humanity had bloodied. The nose of a galactic empire that had never known defeat. General Kim didn't cheer. She knew this was just the beginning. "They'll be back," she said quietly, "and they'll be angry. But now they know something important." She looked at the retreating ships on the monitor and allowed herself a small smile. They know that Earth fights back. The Doran ships disappeared beyond the moon, giving Earth a brief moment to breathe. In cities worldwide, people emerged from shelters, staring at the sky in disbelief. For the first time in history, the entire planet had witnessed an alien attack, and somehow, against all odds, Earth had pushed back. "They'll return with more ships," General Kim warned during the emergency United Nations broadcast. "What we just saw was their standard invasion force. Now they'll come back with their real military." She wasn't trying to scare people. The world deserved the truth. Leaked Doran communications, intercepted and translated by Dr. Lee's team, confirmed they were already calling for reinforcements from nearby star systems. "We have approximately 3 days," General Kim continued. "Every hour matters now." Around the world, manufacturing facilities switched to 24-hour production of the phase-shift missiles that had proven so effective. Military personnel trained civilians on emergency protocols, and in research labs worldwide, scientists worked frantically to develop new weapons based on their study of damaged Doran ships that had crashed during the retreat. On the 3rd day, just as predicted, the sky darkened again. This time the Doran fleet was 3 times larger, with massive dreadnoughts leading the formation. "People of Earth," Admiral Tay's voice boomed across all communication channels. His blue face was tighter now, his black eyes burning with rage. "How your resistance was unexpected but futile. You have angered the Empire. There will be no more offers of mercy. Surrender now or be destroyed." In the underground command center, General Kim received reports from stations worldwide. Earth's defenses were ready. Not just the same tricks as before, but new strategies the Dorans wouldn't expect. "Send our response," she ordered. Instead of a verbal answer, Earth launched Operation Hornet's Nest. Thousands of tiny drones, each no bigger than a coffee cup, swarmed toward the Doran fleet. The aliens' weapons fired, destroying many, but the drones were too small and numerous to stop completely. "What are these?" Admiral Tay demanded as the tiny machines attached themselves to his ships. "They carry no explosives." He was right. But what the drones did carry were specialized computer viruses, designed by Earth's best hackers to infiltrate Doran systems. As the drones attached to the hulls and inserted their electronic tendrils into access ports, the Doran ships began to behave erratically. On one destroyer, gravity suddenly reversed, sending crew members crashing into ceilings. On another, life support started rapidly cycling between different atmospheric compositions. 3 cruisers suddenly fired upon each other, their targeting systems hijacked. "Impossible," Admiral Tay shouted as his own flagship's lights flickered, and control panels began displaying nonsensical information. "Their technology is primitive. How are they doing this?" What the Admiral didn't understand was the unique human gift for asymmetric warfare. Humanity had spent millennia fighting itself, often with one side outgunned, but using creativity to level the playing field. The Dorans, who had only encountered easy conquests for centuries, had no concept of guerrilla tactics. Earth's second wave launched, a smaller number of larger missiles this time. The Dorans focused their remaining functional defenses on these obvious threats, not realizing they were merely decoys, to draw attention away from the stealth shuttles approaching from the opposite direction. These shuttles carried elite soldiers from countries around the world, wearing armor reverse-engineered from Doran materials. They breached the hulls of key ships and moved through the corridors, planting explosive devices at critical junctions before extracting. In the command center, screens showed the chaos unfolding in orbit. General Kim watched with grim satisfaction as the first boarding team reported success. "The Dorans expected us to fight conventionally," she told her staff. "They thought we'd try to match their firepower. But humanity doesn't fight fair, we fight to win." Admiral Tay was in a state of disbelief. Half his fleet was malfunctioning, several ships had suffered internal explosions, and Earth's missiles continued to bypass their shields. The creatures of this planet weren't following any known warfare protocols. They were fighting like barbarians, but with frighteningly effective technology. "All functioning ships, target their major cities," he commanded in desperation. "If we can't take this planet intact, we'll make an example of it." Several Doran warships positioned themselves over major population centers and charged their main weapons. People watched in terror from below as death seemed to hover above them, but when the Dorans fired, something extraordinary happened. The enormous energy beams struck invisible barriers miles above the cities and dissipated harmlessly. In the weeks before the invasion, Earth had deployed a network of orbital defense satellites equipped with shield technology, another innovation derived from studying the crashed scout ship. The shields couldn't cover the entire planet, but they protected the most populated areas. Admiral Tay stared at his tactical display in shock as reports confirmed their bombardment had failed completely. In his 300 years commanding conquest fleets, he had never encountered such effective resistance from a pre-spacefaring civilization. "Sir," his second-in-command said, voice shaking, "I must report that 17 ships are now completely disabled, and we've lost contact with the entire third battle group." The Admiral made a decision that would forever change his standing in the Empire. "Signal retreat. All functional ships to withdraw immediately to Rally Point Delta." As the battered Doran fleet limped away from Earth, cheers erupted in command. Centers, streets, and homes across the planet. This time the celebration was louder, more confident. Earth had not just survived, it had decisively won the second round. General Kim allowed herself a brief smile before turning to her communications officer. "Send the message to all our allied stations throughout the solar system. Phase 3 begins now, because this time Earth wasn't going to wait for the Dorans to return. This time, humanity was taking the fight to them. The days following the second Doran retreat were filled with frantic activity. While civilians worldwide celebrated what they believed was another victory, military and intelligence leaders knew better. The Dorans hadn't given up. They were regrouping, and next time they would come with an armada that could overwhelm even Earth's clever defenses. In a repurposed underground bunker beneath what had once been a shopping mall, Commander Park led Earth's most secretive new initiative. The room hummed with activity as technicians monitored screens displaying Doran ship movements, communication frequencies, and translated alien chatter. "They're gathering at Jupiter's orbit," Commander Park announced, pointing to blinking red dots on the main display. "Their reinforcements have arrived from 2 nearby star systems." The gathered analysts and officers stared at the screen. The new Doran fleet was massive, at least 5 times larger than the force Earth had previously faced. "We can't win a direct fight against that many ships," said Lieutenant Jin, voicing what everyone was thinking. Commander Park smiled. "That's why we're not going to fight them directly. We're going to make them fight themselves." Operation Ghost had begun 3 days earlier, when Earth launched what appeared to be escape ships, civilian vessels fleeing the planet before the next attack. The Dorans had ignored these seemingly harmless transports, focusing instead on repairing their damaged warships. What they didn't realize was that these civilian ships carried Earth's best hackers, linguists, and infiltration specialists along with equipment designed by Professor Lee's xenotechnology team. "Team 1 has successfully attached to the command vessel's maintenance dock," reported a communications officer. "They're bypassing security systems now," Commander Park nodded. "And Team 2? Already inside the communications hub on the secondary carrier, they've planted the transmission interceptors without detection. This was humanity's greatest gamble yet. Instead of waiting for the next attack, Earth had sent its people directly into the heart of the enemy fleet." Their mission wasn't to destroy the Dorans, it was to confuse them, mislead them, and turn them against each other. Professor Lee had made the breakthrough that made this possible. After studying captured Doran technology and biological samples, her team had discovered something remarkable. The Dorans relied heavily on automated systems and artificial intelligence for decision-making. Their strict hierarchical society meant few questioned orders from above, creating a perfect vulnerability for Earth to exploit. "First phase complete," announced the operations director. "We have access to their basic command protocols, Commander." Park leaned forward. "Begin the disinformation campaign." Across the Doran fleet, strange malfunctions began to occur. Ship captains received contradictory orders, seemingly from their superiors. Navigation systems showed incorrect positions, causing near collisions. Supply ships delivered the wrong materials to vessels needing repairs. Meanwhile, on Earth, another team worked around the clock studying the biological samples recovered from damaged Doran ships. Dr. Kang made the critical discovery: the Dorans had no immunity to certain common Earth bacteria. Their species had evolved in a nearly sterile environment, their bodies never developing the robust immune systems that humans took for granted. "We're not suggesting biological warfare," Dr. Kang explained to the Ethics Committee. "But we can use this knowledge defensively. Small atmospheric alterations in key areas of their ships could incapacitate boarding parties without causing permanent harm." As Earth's infiltration teams worked within the Doran fleet, they planted devices that subtly altered the air composition in strategic locations. Nothing lethal, but enough to cause disorientation and confusion among Doran troops preparing for the invasion. 3 weeks into Operation Ghost, the results exceeded even the most optimistic projections. The massive Doran armada remained in disarray around Jupiter, unable to launch their attack. Earth's infiltration teams had created a masterpiece of misinformation and sabotage. "Admiral Tay has been relieved of command," reported an intelligence analyst, monitoring translated Doran communications. "They believe he's been incompetent or deliberately sabotaging the mission." Commander Park nodded. "What about their new commander?" "Grand Marshal Han has taken control of the fleet. He's executing officers he suspects of disloyalty or incompetence." This was an unexpected development, but one that worked in Earth's favor. The Doran command structure was collapsing from within, paralyzed by suspicion and internal conflict. Earth's most daring move came next. Using the communication systems they'd compromised, they began broadcasting false reports back to the Doran Empire's central command. These reports suggested that Earth possessed weapons of planet-destroying capability, weapons that had never actually been developed, but which seemed plausible given Earth's unexpected resistance so far. "The beauty of this approach, Commander," Park explained to visiting government officials, "is that it costs us nothing but creates massive uncertainty for them. They can't risk losing an entire fleet if there's even a small chance we really have such weapons." As weeks stretched into months, the Doran fleet remained in disarray at Jupiter's orbit. Ships continued to malfunction mysteriously. Supply lines were disrupted. Communications remained garbled and contradictory. And through carefully planted misinformation, Earth created the illusion that it was much better defended than it actually was. In a bold move, Earth's hackers infiltrated the Doran's historical archives and discovered something the invaders had tried to keep secret. They had been defeated once before by a species called the Arcturians, though this information had been suppressed within the Empire. Using this knowledge, Earth's infiltration teams spread rumors among the Doran ranks that Earth and the Arcturians were ancient allies. The psychological impact was devastating. Doran morale plummeted as troops began to believe they faced not just Earth, but potentially the only species that had ever successfully resisted them. "We can't defeat them through firepower," Commander Park told General Kim during their weekly briefing, "but we might just defeat them through fear, confusion, and doubt." It was a quintessentially human approach to an overwhelming threat, not meeting force with force, but undermining the enemy's will to fight at all. Earth's infiltration of the Doran fleet had yielded an unexpected treasure: access to their interstellar communication network. For weeks, Earth's experts had been monitoring transmissions between the invasion force and the broader Empire. What they discovered changed everything. "They've done this before, many, many times," General Kim told the United Nations Security Council, her voice grim as she displayed star maps on the main screen. "These aren't just conquerors, they're planet killers." The evidence was unmistakable. Hundreds of worlds had fallen to the Dorans over thousands of years. Some were now mining colonies stripped of resources. Others had become agricultural planets, where the native species worked as slaves. Many were simply gone, reduced to asteroid belts after their inhabitants had resisted too fiercely. "We've been lucky so far," General Kim continued. "Our unexpected resistance has confused them. But when Grand Marshal Han gets his fleet organized, they won't make the same mistakes twice." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had won battles, but winning the war against an interstellar empire seemed impossible. That's when Dr. Lee stepped forward, her expression unusually animated for the normally reserved scientist. "There's something else in their communications, something they're desperately trying to hide." She brought up a series of intercepted transmissions, translated into Earth languages. "They're facing rebellions. Multiple species they've conquered are watching what's happening here. Our resistance is inspiring others. This revelation changed the calculus completely. Earth wasn't alone in its fight. There were potential allies among the stars, others who hated the Dorans just as much as humanity now did. The decision was unanimous. Earth would attempt to contact these other subjugated species. Using the Doran's own communication network was too risky. They'd detect the intrusion immediately. Instead, Earth scientists modified the captured Doran technology to create a new type of faster-than-light communication system. The first messages were sent out 3 days later, simple broadcasts in multiple formats that could be understood by different species, showing Earth's successful defense and offering alliance against their common enemy. For weeks, there was nothing but silence. Had the messages been received? Did anyone dare respond? Then, in the middle of a routine monitoring shift, it happened. "We're receiving something," announced the communications officer, her voice rising in excitement. "It's not Doran. The signal structure is completely different." The message came from a species called the Rigelians, former scientists who had been reduced to technical slaves by the Empire. Their world had been conquered 50 years earlier, but they secretly maintained some of their technology. They had received Earth's broadcast and were willing to help. More messages followed. The Proxians, a warrior race who had been fighting a guerrilla war against Doran rule for over a century. The Tausetians, who appeared to be peaceful philosophers, but had been developing resistance techniques for generations. And most surprisingly, the Arcturians, the legendary species that had once defeated the Dorans, thought to have been completely eradicated, but who had instead gone into hiding, building their strength for centuries while waiting for the right moment to strike back. "We are not alone," General Kim announced to a world that had been preparing for extinction. "We have friends among the stars." The alliance took shape rapidly. Each species contributed what they could. The Rigelians provided advanced technical knowledge that helped Earth improve its weapons and defenses. The Proxians shared battle tactics they had developed during their long resistance. The Tausetians offered psychological insights into Doran, thinking that proved invaluable for counterintelligence operations. And the Arcturians provided hope. They had defeated the Dorans once before. It could be done again. Meanwhile, in the Doran fleet, Grand Marshal Han had finally restored some semblance of order through brutal discipline. Suspected saboteurs, many of them innocent crew members, had been executed. Malfunctioning systems had been replaced. The fleet was nearly ready to launch its assault on Earth. "The primitives have had their fun," Grand Marshal Han told his commanders. "Now they will understand the full might of our empire. No more games. We will reduce their cities to ash and process the survivors for labor camps." What Han didn't know was that his communications were being monitored not just by Earth, but now by a coalition of resistance forces throughout the empire. When he dispatched courier ships to request additional reinforcements, those ships were quietly intercepted by Arcturian stealth vessels. When he sent scout ships to assess Earth's defenses, They returned with false information provided by Proxian infiltrators who had replaced the original crews. Earth's leaders debated their next move. Some argued for continuing the defensive strategy, letting the Dorans exhaust themselves against Earth's strengthened defenses. Others pushed for a more aggressive approach. In the end, it was a suggestion from the Tau Cetians that shaped the plan, one that appealed to humanity's natural inclination toward justice. "The peoples of the galaxy do not know they can resist," explained the Tau Cetian representative, a tall, willowy being who communicated through color patterns on their skin. "The Empire maintains control through fear and information control. What if all could see what humans have accomplished?" The plan was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, but undeniably human in its emotion-driven logic. Earth would allow the Dorans to attack, but the battle would be broadcast throughout the Empire using technology provided by their new allies. Every subjugated world would witness Earth's resistance, proving that the supposedly invincible Empire could be fought. Grand Marshal Han launched his attack exactly as Earth's intelligence predicted. Thousands of Doran ships approached Earth in perfect formation, their weapons charged, ready to end the embarrassing resistance of this backwater planet. What they encountered was not just Earth's defenses, now significantly enhanced with alien technology, but a coordinated response from ships that suddenly appeared from behind Earth's moon. Arcturian vessels, Proxian fighters, and Rigelian technical ships joined Earth's forces in the first united stand against the Empire in centuries. The battle was spectacular, visible from Earth's surface as flashes of light that turned night into day, and as planned, every moment was broadcast across the stars, a beacon of defiance that could not be silenced. By the battle's end, Grand Marshal Han's fleet was in retreat, his flagship severely damaged, his reputation in tatters. But more importantly, throughout the Doran Empire, the seeds of full-scale rebellion had been planted. Earth had done the impossible, not just defended itself, but united the galaxy against its oppressors. The weeks following the Great Battle, above Earth were filled with feverish activity. What had begun as a desperate defense of a single planet had transformed into something much larger, the first coordinated multi-species rebellion against the Doran Empire in thousands of years. "We have a unique opportunity," General Kim told the newly formed Alliance Council, which included representatives from Earth and their extraterrestrial allies. "The Dorans are wounded and confused. For the first time in their history, they're fighting rebellions on multiple fronts." Reports from across the galaxy confirmed her assessment. Inspired by the broadcasts of Earth's successful resistance, dozens of subjugated worlds had risen up against their oppressors. Doran garrisons found themselves under attack from populations they had thought thoroughly broken. Supply lines were disrupted. Communication hubs were sabotaged. The Empire was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. Yet everyone in the council chamber knew this wasn't enough. The Doran Empire still controlled vast resources and countless worlds. They would eventually regroup, crush the individual rebellions, and return to Earth with a force so overwhelming that no defense could stop them. "We need to strike at their center," said the Arcturian representative, a being of shifting crystalline structures that somehow conveyed both ancient wisdom and fierce determination. "As long as the Imperial government remains intact, they will never stop coming." The room fell silent. What the Arcturian was suggesting seemed impossible. The Doran homeworld was at the heart of their territory, protected by defense systems built over thousands of years, surrounded by the largest concentration of warships in the known galaxy. "A direct assault would be suicide," said Commander Park, studying the star charts. "Perhaps we don't need a direct assault," offered the Rigelian delegate, her 6 eyes blinking in their species equivalent of excitement. "Perhaps we need something more human." All eyes turned to her as she explained. In their time working with Earth's forces, the Rigelians had observed something they found remarkable about humans, their capacity for what they called lateral thinking. Where other species saw insurmountable obstacles, humans often found unexpected paths forward. "The Dorans expect us to either attack or defend," the Rigelian continued. "What if we do neither? What if we simply tell the truth?" The plan that emerged was unlike any military strategy in galactic history. It would combine Earth's talent for information warfare, Rigelian technical expertise, Proxian infiltration skills, Tau-Cetian psychological insight, and Arcturian knowledge of the Empire's deepest secrets. The first phase began with the capture of a Doran communication hub in a distant star system. Instead of destroying it, Alliance forces reprogrammed it, turning it into a broadcast center that could reach every corner of the Empire. Then came the content of those broadcasts, the truth the Empire had hidden for millennia. Using records provided by the Arcturians and other allies, Earth's best documentary filmmakers created compelling exposés revealing the Empire's true history. They showed how the Doran leadership had lied to their own people, how the supposed glorious conquests were actually brutal genocides, how the Empire's wealth was built on the suffering of countless species. Most damaging of all were the records showing that ordinary Dorans, the citizens who believed they were part of a civilizing force in the galaxy, received only crumbs from the Empire's vast wealth, while the ruling elites lived in unimaginable luxury. Revolutions don't start with battles, Dr. Lee had explained during the planning sessions. They start with revelations. As the broadcast spread across Doran territories, something unexpected happened. Protests erupted not just on conquered worlds, but on Doran colonies as well. The Empire had maintained control partly through information, manipulation, convincing its own citizens that their rule was benevolent and necessary. As that illusion crumbled, so did their loyalty. The second phase targeted the Empire's military directly. Using technology developed by Earth and enhanced by the Rigelians, the Alliance sent personalized messages to Doran ship commanders, offering amnesty in exchange for surrender. The messages included specific details about each commander's family, home and personal history, information gathered through the Alliance's growing intelligence network. "Your leaders have lied to you," the messages said. "They will sacrifice you without hesitation to maintain their power, but we offer you a choice." Remarkably, some accepted. Entire battle groups defected, their commanders having seen enough to question their lifelong loyalty to an empire built on deception. The final phase was the boldest. A small elite force would infiltrate the Doran homeworld itself. Not to attack it, but to broadcast the truth directly to the heart of the Empire, where information control was tightest. The team consisted of the best from each allied species: human hackers and special forces, Proxian infiltrators, Rigelian, technicians, Tau-Cetian communicators, and Arcturian guides who remembered the planet from before their exile centuries ago. Their insertion was a masterpiece of deception. Using captured Doran vessels and perfect forged credentials, they landed on the homeworld disguised as internal security forces responding to the growing unrest. By the time the deception was discovered, they had already reached the planetary broadcasting center. What followed was not the bloody confrontation many had expected, but something far more powerful. For the first time in Doran history, the ordinary citizens saw the true face of their leaders, not as the godlike figures portrayed in official media, but as flawed, corrupt individuals who had sacrificed countless lives, including those of their own people, for personal power. The Imperial Palace. The Imperial, a massive structure that had stood for thousands of years as a symbol of Doran might, found itself surrounded not by enemy warships, but by millions of its own citizens demanding answers. The Emperor, faced with the collapse of the fear and lies that had maintained his power, attempted a final, desperate gambit, ordering the planetary defense system to fire on his own people. It was the breaking point. Military commanders, already wavering in their loyalty after weeks of revelations, refused the order. 3 days later, the Emperor and his inner circle were arrested by their own security forces. Across the galaxy, Doran military commanders found themselves without a government to serve. Some fought on out of sheer stubbornness. Many more surrendered or simply withdrew from conquered worlds, returning to Doran space to see what would emerge from the chaos. On Earth, people gathered in streets and squares to watch the broadcasts. From the Doran homeworld, scarcely believing what they were witnessing. What had begun as a desperate defense of their planet had ended with the fall of a galactic empire that had seemed invincible just months earlier. It wasn't our weapons that defeated them, General Kim told the celebrating crowds. It was our humanity, our stubbornness, our refusal to surrender, and most of all our belief that truth is ultimately more powerful than any weapon. As representatives from formerly subjugated worlds gathered to form a new galactic confederation, Earth found itself in an unexpected position, not just a member of the galactic community, but a respected leader. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had shown the wisdom that thousands of years of empire had forgotten. The unofficial motto of the new confederation was a phrase that had begun as graffiti on a Doran outpost wall, written by a human infiltrator: "Fuck around, find out." A crude expression perhaps, but one that captured an eternal truth. Oppression eventually meets resistance, and the oppressor learns too late the cost of their actions.